Hey guys, it's Kevin Harry here. I am an Atlanta-based headshot and portrait photographer. I decided I was going to do something new. I'm going to introduce a new series where I tell you the story behind the shot. And I did this before, but I'm going to do a little bit of a slight variation of this where I'm not only going to talk about shots, but go behind the scenes and give you an idea of the reason why I did things a certain way, reason why certain decisions were made. A lot of photographers, when they put their work out there, myself included, they're putting stuff out that's the best of the best. This is the best my work can be at that moment and that given time with this particular person. But you never see what happens when things go quote unquote wrong. So I'm going to show you a little bit or share a little story behind the scenes of how I shot this. My friend Megan, and how I got that shot and what happened before that and how we came to that shot and kind of go from there. And one of my photography heroes is a guy by the name of George Horrell. There's a high chance that you may not know him by name, but you've seen his work. He was one of the more prolific photographers in the golden era of Hollywood that shot pretty much everyone from Marilyn Monroe on down. Oddly enough, there aren't very many pictures around of the ones he shot of Marilyn Monroe. I think he shot her earlier in her career before she became Marilyn Monroe, but he has shot pretty much everybody. I mean, you had your Cecil Beatons and that kind of thing, but he was probably the most prolific and probably the most famous. He had created the whole boom light thing that makes women look really dramatic, both men and women, and shot in black and white for movie studios like MGM and Paramount, that kind of thing. So I took a lot of inspiration from that shot. There's a book one of his assistants wrote. I highly suggest you get it or at least look online for some of his work. So I was going for a retro, vintage, golden era, classic Hollywood, old Hollywood, whatever you want to label it, look with my friend Megan, who I showed earlier. And basically what ended up happening, I was going to do this, kind of sort of old school style where I had a light, an old video light. They don't really use these much anymore because everybody's gone more LED and RGB style lighting, but these lights are really, really hot. And I happen to have one and I wanted to use it, but kind of shoot in a way that they would have done back in the 30s. So I brought Megan in, her friend Emma came for support. And the whole idea was we're going to bring out the chaise lounge. You're going to be wearing this dramatic red dress, and I'm going to put a light on top of you. And I think I was only going to use one light for this. And then I'm going to stand above her and shoot above eye level, because that was kind of the style back then, and try to capture this look. And as we're shooting, I wasn't really paying much attention to it, but the power immediately goes off. This thing sucks a lot of power, blew the fuse. And I'm in an old building. This is when I had my studio space. And I went into the circuit breaker, tried to turn the power back on. I could not get the power to turn back on for everything. So we are in the dark. We can't see anything. This was an evening shoot, and all we have are the lights of our phones to be able to see anything. We could barely see wardrobe. And I only got one, maybe two frames out of that shot. And I'll show that shot here, what we got. And the first thing I learned or figured out, it's not just as important as how you light your subject and where the light lands, but where the light does not. And one of the things that I did not like is that the light, because it's so harsh, wasn't really diffused. And I wasn't putting any kind of negative or subtractive lighting on the light. The light was hitting areas of her body that I didn't really like. And so it was taking away from the light on her face. Before I even could get through that, the light, the power obviously went out. So we're there, and about 30 or 40 minutes kind of passed where we're trying to figure out what to do, calling the owner of the building to see if they can how to get the power turned back on. Emma left, and it was just me and her. And I said, well, we can't see in the studio. We could barely see in front of us with the clothes she brought, but I have an idea. I've got strobe, so why don't we just do the same concept, but switch it over where I'm using strobe and I'm using, the modeling light off that strobe to focus. So basically what I did was we went into the studio, again, just using our flashlight and on our phones. And I had these little tiny IKEA bath mats. I had one on the floor. It was a white one. Specifically, I wanted that one so that the light would bounce and give a little bit of catch light. And then I wrapped her in an black IKEA bathrobe, and we kind of pulled down her shirt so it looked like that was all she was wearing. And we were just laughing the whole time shooting it. But it was a lot of the stuff that was to me, very reminiscent of this time period and this style of lighting. Booming a light, I used a beauty dish. It was a 22-inch beauty dish with a grid, and the grid is basically to focus the light on her face and not have a lot of splash on the background. Theoretically, you could have done 3-point lighting or added 4 or 5 different lights. I didn't think it was that necessary. In fact, quite oftentimes when I do this style of shot, rarely do I use more than 2 lights at max, just to get the effect that I'm looking for. I do like a lot of low-key lighting. I do like a lot of shadows, strong shadows and dramatic shadows, and environment doesn't factor as much because I'm using plain backdrops, a gray backdrop, or maybe a canvas backdrop. However, when you start doing things that are a little bit more environmental and you want a little bit of that cinematic depth, then it makes sense to light the space, not just the face. But anyway, I wanted to show you some of the stuff that we've did. Here's some examples.